Black Bear was released in 2020, and it's written and directed by Lawrence Michael Levine. This is the first film of his that I've watched. It's definitely an indie film. When the title of the film is written in cursive on notebook paper, you know you're watching an indie film. It stars Aubrey Plaza, Christopher Abbott, and Sarah Gadon, who I think all turn in strong performances. Though, let me mention that when I was looking this movie up to see whether or not I wanted to watch it, the top review wasn't even a review of the movie. It was a long rant, obviously intended to be comedic, about the viewer's hatred of Aubrey Plaza's acting. If you hate Aubrey Plaza's acting, then don't watch this movie, as she is the star, and it's the morose type of character that she often plays. The main reason I watched this film was because it had garnered comparisons to John Cassavetes' A Woman Under the Influence and David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. Two very different films. A Woman Under the Influence is naturalistic and Mulholland Drive is surrealistic, but both of them deal with women suffering mental breakdowns. The premise of the film in part 1, The Bear in the Road, is that Aubrey Plaza's character Allison is an actor and director who heads to a retreat in the woods with another couple, where she is hoping to write her next screenplay. There are immediately awkward interactions and some sexual tension with the couple of Gabe and Blair, played by Christopher Abbott and Sarah Gadon. Allison and Blair exchange some fake compliments, which immediately shows that there might be a little jealousy going on. Gabe is a failed musician, Blair is a failed dancer, and Allison is a somewhat successful filmmaker, so all three of these characters have pursued artistic careers rather than more conventional ones, and for both Gabe and Blair, with child on the way, pursuing the creation of art is no longer a realistic endeavor. Gabe makes pennies in his royalties from his music. Blair doesn't even consider him to be an artist, and Gabe heavily resents this.
Gabe is a musician.
I am a musician. That's not something you stop being.
I'm sorry, it's just so rare to have the opportunity to pick a real artist's brain.
They mostly stay together because she's pregnant. Allison walks around in a red bathing suit that is obviously intended to imply sexuality and seduction, as the color of the bathing suit contrasts the muted backdrop of the lake house. This tension builds into a very long dramatic scene where the three characters all get drunk on wine. Despite the fact that Blair is pregnant, there's initially some contention between Gabe and Blair as he doesn't want her potentially harming the baby. Blair pushes back on Gabe's attempts to control her, and from there on, all of the pent-up rage and resentment that this couple shares begins to rise to the surface.
You happy? I just want you to remember this night when the baby comes out all fucked up.
Gabe and Blair force Allison into the role of mediator while they unload all of their criticisms of one another. Gabe resents that Blair views him as a male chauvinist due to his critical view of feminism and his assertion that the breakdown of the nuclear family is the cause of current issues such as the rise of nationalism and white supremacy. Gabe and Blair are both consumed in their own ideologies, and they scream at each other like children.
I want you to get it through your thick fucking skull.
You think women should be slaves. That's what you think. You think women should be fucking slaves.
I can't help but notice how all three of the characters are portrayed as insufferable sociopaths. Allison lies about her personal life to Gabe and Blair without having any reason to do so. She claims that she never learned how to cook, and then lies about her mother being dead, just to make Blair feel uncomfortable for asking. Every time Gabe defends Allison, Blair accuses him of wanting to sleep with her, and at one point she is commanding him to sleep with her.
Just go and fuck her. Fuck her! I bet her pussy smells like fucking spider shit!
For the most part, the dialogue and performances in this drawn-out emotional breakdown feel realistic, though there were still moments where it felt a little scripted. I would classify Black Bear as a chamber drama in its first half, where it's only 3 characters on one set, though the second half shakes up the premise with a larger cast and provides an inverse mirror image of the first half. The first half is heavy drama, and the second half borders on black comedy. At times, the score provides a sense of foreboding, giving an undercurrent of horror to the whole presentation. The cinematography gives this vibe as well, so that's the setup for Black Bear. If you're interested in art films, indie films, or chamber dramas, it can be rented on Amazon Prime for $5.99. Let's dive into spoilers because the whole second half of this film is one big spoiler, and I can't talk about the film without talking about it. So, after exhausting the audience with all of this drama and conflict, Gabe hooks up with Allison while Blair is asleep in the other room. A fight quickly ensues between Gabe and Blair when she wakes up, in which he injures her and possibly the child. Allison attempts to drive the two to the hospital, but a black bear appears, her car hits a tree, and we fade to black. So there was literally a bear in the road. The symbolism of the bear is not really made clear in the film. On the website spiritanimals.com, the black bear is said to symbolize introspection and a journey inward. On the website Shaman's Way, the bear is said to symbolize an awakening of the unconscious. The two parts of the film each end with an encounter with the eponymous black bear. The bear is the bridge between the two sections of the film, which seem to take place in alternate realities, though the distinction between fantasy and reality is never clearly expressed. In the second half of the film, titled The Bear by the Boathouse, the film goes full meta. Allison is in the middle of filming the final scene for a movie where Blair is now an actress, not a dancer, and Gabe is a director, not a musician. The scenes that are being filmed are similar to what the audience witnessed during the first half, only the roles of Allison and Blair are switched. Allison is in love with Gabe and is suspicious that he has been hooking up with Blair. Gabe and Blair have actually been going out of their way to manipulate Allison into believing this infidelity to get a better performance out of her. Allison is so upset that she shows up to set late and completely wasted. There's a lot of quick editing and weird little comedic scenes with the crew. Some of the crew are getting high on set. One of them has explosive diarrhea. There are romantic interactions going on between several of the crew members as well. The tone is very different here. It's not explained what the relationship is between the first half and second half of the film. It could be that the first half was a real personal situation that Allison decided to turn into her film in the second half, and then while playing the lead, she suffered in the same way that Blair did. Or there could be more of a psychological interpretation that the first half was all a delusion. Having the same actors switch roles halfway through might make this all a little confusing, but that's a meta film for you. The film that is being made in the second half is the film Black Bear, the film that you're watching. You're watching the making of the film within the film, although it's not really them making the film, it's a dramatized version of it. Before each part, the audience sees Allison sitting down to write the scenes that are about to be shown. There's a statement here about the treatment of actors as Gabe treats Allison with cruelty in order to push her to her acting limits. I'll mention for a historical perspective that John Cassavetes ran his own acting workshop that was different than Lee Strasberg's Actors Studio, which taught method acting, adopted from Russian theater practitioner Konstantin Stanislavski. Cassavetes' criticism of traditional method acting was that it was like psychotherapy. Actors were expected to dig deep into their personal trauma to find inspiration for the emotion they needed to provide. Regardless of how reliving personal trauma over and over again, take after take, could be detrimental to mental health, there's a criticism in this film of the lengths that a director will go to capture a great performance, even if it's psychologically and physically harmful to the actor. The second half ends in a similar manner to the first, where Gabe and Blair are messing around in the water, while it was Gabe and Allison in the first part. A black bear shows up, and Allison walks towards it. The film ends with Allison staring into the camera, breaking the fourth wall as the film does many times. Ending the film with the actor looking into the camera certainly isn't anything new. Movies have been doing this as far back as Godard's Breathless in 1960. Even the Ninja Turtles cartoon used to break the fourth wall.
I know the scenery's not much, but you gotta admit the music is pretty exciting.
I find Black Bear to be a slightly above average film, somewhat uneven. The heavy drama occurring so early is really odd pacing. The first half feels like the ending of a film, and then the second half is actually a little longer and too drawn out. It feels like it takes forever for the crew to film Allison's scenes while she's hammered drunk. I know this is intentional, to really drive home the intensity of the filmmaking process, but most audiences will probably lose attention in the second half. If they decide to even watch this film at all, the film is about an hour and 45 minutes, an acceptable length. Acting is the main focus of the film, more than any other element. The meta nature does feel a little played out, as it's probably been done better by Charlie Kaufman. Still, it's good to see that these types of chamber dramas are still getting made, even though they will likely not appeal to the masses. I also think that Lawrence Michael Levine might be a writer-director to keep an eye on in the future.
Okay, cut! Cut! Okay. That's it.